seek him here, they seek him there. For many years, when I first came to Poland, there were words, rumors, you could hardly call them even phrases or sentences coming out about this legendary figure of the expat scene, this traveler, this writer. Some called him the Fat Hugh Grant, according to his channel for The First News, where he talks about traveling around Poland. We are going to be talking to one of Poland's premier English language journalists, Alex Weber. Like I say, a legend on the expat scene across the country. Anywhere you talk about in Poland, he's been there. He's done that in more ways than one. And he's got the stories, the scars, and no doubt a couple of tattoos to find out. We're going to be talking about something very interesting, my friends. Alex is going to be sharing with us the best place in Poland and talking to us about some of the exciting places he's been. Alex Weber, we're going to invite you in 3, 2, 1. Hello, Alex. How you doing, sir?
I'm here. Hello, Patrick. How you doing? Thank you very much for that outrageous welcome.
It was outrageous, but I think you thoroughly merited it, and that was the censored version. Alex, you interviewed me once, which I found to be a pleasant experience, and I hope, likewise, you can say the same about me interviewing you.
Worst morning of my life, Patrick, but yes, please continue.
So, dude, you came to Poland about 20 years ago, I think?
20 years ago, yes. 20 years.
You were in the Marriott Hotel on your first ever trip, first bit, when all of a sudden news came through that a tiger was on the loose.
Not 1, 2, actually, I think even 3, but along the way, the third got captured, I think. But yes, this is entirely true. This all stems to my my original, I think, addiction to Poland. Let's say I was coming in from an overnight train to Warsaw. I had no intention of staying the night, but yeah. Got in from an overnight train, very fragile. Checked as the first hotel I saw, which was the Marriott. Tune in, and tigers are running around the city centre. Actually, Tarchomin, I think it was. And watching absolutely bewildered, baffled as that it took the police so long to turn up. The local shopkeepers were chasing the animals with broomsticks, and it was absolutely bizarre watching this. I thought, this doesn't happen in Bristol, you know. And the story does actually have a very serious, very tragic twist in that a vet who was on the scene did actually get shot and killed. So that there is obviously a very horrible twist to it. But I remember at the time just thinking, what the hell, you know, this is a country worth looking into. So I did. Essentially, I stayed.
So how have you been in Poland uninterrupted for the last 20 years?
Uninterrupted for 20 years, yeah. I mean, obviously, I continued my backpacking adventure after this tiger escapade and stuff like that. Came back to Bristol, and essentially, I didn't have much going on in Bristol, and figured why not throw in my hat to work abroad, and basically ended up in Vilnius. No one wanted to work in Warsaw, and that the company I was with at the time was expanding to Warsaw. No one wanted to do that. Thought, yeah, all right, why me? Why not me? Here I am.
Now, I described you as a sort of legend within the expat scene. Do you agree with that? Do you think you live up to the hype? Or maybe not?
Absolutely. No, I'm quite astonished to hear that. So it's very welcoming to hear that. So I shall bow to your superior wisdom. But absolutely not. No, that's the first time I've heard that. Maybe a legend in my local pub where I have a bill this long, you know. But certainly not in any other way.
Legendary drinking prowess, but you're also a traveller, Alex. You've been up and down, broadways, sideways, backwards, no doubt. Through Poland. We're going to talk today about the best place in Poland. We've got 3 stories to share. I want, if you can talk us through how to live like the Tsar, Nicholas III, I think it was, if I remember rightly. This is something really extraordinary.
Yes. This place is absolutely astounding. You're referring here to a place called Apartamenty Tsarska, which is in the actual town of Białowieża. There is, everyone knows the national park Białowieża, but there is actually also a town there called Białowieża, which is a very small town, very scenic, full of all these little rural cottages, all very prim and proper, little flower pots in front and smoke wafting everywhere. Beautiful it is. But anyhow, there is this train station there that was built specifically for the Tsar's luggage. And this was during his hunting excursions during the very late 19th century, early 20th century, prior to the revolution. I think he visited 5-7 times or something like that, and essentially this train station has since been turned into a luxury hotel on wheels, and it is absolutely it's like being in an Anna Karenina novel or something like that. It's absolutely superb. Words do not express. I'm very nervous that the pictures don't even express it. I think you have to see it to believe it. So I remember opening the doors for the first time and just being wowed by this glorious, voluptuous colours and stuff like that, and just thinking, wow, this is a sort of job I really, really love.
Yeah, I was going to say it must be the hardest job in the world to go traveling around Poland so that other people
In all fairness, Patrick, it does have its challenges, and there are several. The downs are there, and as well as the ups, there are numerous ups. Firstly, the challenges to me are what makes the travel so exciting. It's not as say simple as basically going around England or wherever, France or wherever else you may wish to go. There are challenges, especially once you go to the more remote locations and all that. But to me, I think that's part of the magic and part of the seductive allure of Poland.
Well, we're going to come back maybe to the subject of how to find out these little sweet spots, because if I'm being honest, Alex, you've got a skill I haven't, which is you actually been up and down Poland. I really feel like I haven't explored the country enough, despite the fact everyone says, oh, you know so much about Poland. I never would have thought or heard about this place. In fact, if I've been completely honest, I haven't even been to Białowieża.
Right.
So, there's just, shame on me. So let's talk about Łódź. You've done and by the way, guys, you can find out about how to travel in style like Nicholas II, not third, by clicking on the link to the article, which is below this video. You can see the description. Let's find out about Łódź. You've done an article recently on Łódź. When I came to that city 11, 12 years ago, I actually felt a little bit physically threatened for my life.
Oh, you're not the only one. You are not the only one.
Tell us about that. First touch to the article.
I mean, the first time I was in Łódź would have been the year 2000. I just started work in Warsaw, and I remember a friend of mine, a colleague at work, telling him that I'm off to Łódź, and he genuinely suggested I write a will or a letter to my next of kin. I looked at him, I figured he was joking. He was not. There was not a smile cracking his lips or anything like that. He was being absolutely dead serious. And I realised the moment I got off at Brit in the train station, oh my God, where am I? It was dark, it was dank, it was sinister. You could feel the menace in the air and such like. And at the time, Łódź had a very, very ignoble reputation. Everything that went wrong in Poland was going wrong in Łódź. You had bodies in barrels. You had ambulance men taking bungs for murdering patients on the way to hospital. It was a disaster zone, and it sounds like I'm saying this lightly. That is not the intention at all. These are obviously very tragic things. But yeah, it kind of sums up Łódź. And the city itself was broken. It was falling in on itself. At the same time, it kind of captivated me and compelled me vastly. I thought it was very the atmosphere was great. The people itself were amazing. But I find that in most of Poland that doesn't have the best PR, let's say, the people are very eager to speak to those international visitors who do come, and they're very eager to show their hospitality. And that, to me, absolutely grabbed me, and I fell in love with Łódź there and then. And to see it bloom and blossom in the last decade or so has been astonishing.
You say decade. I mean, it just feels like it's gone boom, and all of a sudden it's
it is like someone has hit the fast forward button. It's there is no other way to describe it. I think that when you look at the Łódź of the past, as you say, it genuinely, there were parts of it, and several parts of it, where you'd feel very physically uncomfortable, let alone psychologically uncomfortable. But nowadays, whoa, if it's hip and happening, it's happening in Łódź. That to me is astonishing. And I think likewise, this is a scene being replicated in other cities without the best PR. For example, Katowice, which again is also a huge surprise to me. I remember it 2 decades ago, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, feeling very, very threatened there. And nowadays, wow, the party is here.
Yeah, Katowice, another place. Got off at the bus station there thinking, oh, I do not feel like this little small town English boys ended up in the wrong place. Patrick, can you speak a little bit slower from Martin there? Alex, have you ever been physically threatened in Poland? Have you ever had any fisticuffs?
Many times. Well, no, actually, not many times. I have had one incident in Warsaw, which I completely brought upon myself. It's not something I'm proud of. I think in general, Poland is an incredibly safe place. And I think that when you compare it to England, where all sorts break out in the most unlikeliest of places at certain hours after pubs shut, essentially, and in certain places, i.e. kebab shops. Then, it's I think Poland's incredibly safe. I've never felt bear in mind, I do a lot of a private passion of mine is photographing football stadiums and football culture. So I travel a lot around Poland, documenting fan culture in the lower leagues, especially. So there's obviously a lot of that does involve a fair bit of dynamic excitement, let's say. But even then, never have I felt personally at risk. Everyone I've spoken to, for example, at these matches and such, like, are all very encouraged, fascinated that an English guy happens to be in the middle of, wherever, like Kalisz or Andrychov or such, like, or Dębica, and they're all very fascinated and very like, oh, don't worry, if anything happens, you're under our wing, which I find very sweet, kind of disturbing at the same time, but very, very sweet and very, very typical almost of Poland.
Better than the other way around, where they lamp you in the cock for. So you're standing there taking pictures of the sort of the stadium or the fans?
Both, actually. It's a private project, so I'm doing documenting the fan culture that is decreasing now in Poland as Polish football gentrifies increasingly. So I'm basically trying to capture a dwindling scene, let's say, that the stadiums are being improved, the crowds themselves are gentrifying and such like that. So I'm trying to catch the very tail end of the madness, let's say, of Polish football.
Yeah, and it was mad. I remember my first games has been blown away. I thought I'd been transported back to the 1970s.
Right.
Alex, is there a football hooligan problem in Poland?
I think that it's certainly more of a problem than it is in England, definitely. I think there's more of, I think the football hooligan problem in Poland is more rooted, not so much in the football itself, but rather than other issues that, to be honest, I'd rather not get into, because I think that I don't understand them myself. These are way too complex. These are organized crime, let's say, that frankly, is way over my head. And I'm not really the person to comment on that. But yes, there is a certain problem here. But I don't think you can paint it as black and white as saying it's a football thing.
Well, we'll move on then, because I want to go back to Łódź. So you've done an article about Łódź, and what's in that article? Let's sell it to me.
Right, so to be honest, it was the article was 2 weeks ago. I don't have a clue. I can't remember. File and forget, Patrick. File and forget. I think the gist of it, actually, looking back, I think the gist of it was about Piotrkowska Street, but not actual Piotrkowska Street, which is the one that obviously everyone heads to, but what lies off it, which to me is the fascinating aspect of Łódź. I think that there's a development called Off Piotrkowska, which is essentially a food and drink hub, the like of which Poland does not have elsewhere. I think it makes the rest of Poland look wow. I think that Warsaw would be very lucky if Warsaw had this. Then it would be in the international press. I think if Berlin had something like Off Piotrkowska, it would be in the international press. I don't think enough people know about it. In Łódź, obviously, it's very famous. Across Poland, it's very famous. But this place is fabulous. But I think that's not the only magic of Łódź, of the little side streets. I think there's so many charms and so many amazing things, amazing little nuggets and gems that lie off it, that it's addictive, frankly, just exploring.
Yeah, you can read about the unbeaten streets of Łódź in Alex's article, which is below this video. If you click on the description, you can see a link there. Let's come on to Rzeszów, which I was amazed by. I've been in the area, never heard of it. Never heard of it.
Neither have many people, to be honest. I think this is one of the things I love about exploring Poland is hitting places that people don't really that maybe the majority don't know about, and I include Poles in that. And I think it's a real privilege and pleasure of my job is going to these places. Rzeszów itself, I found about it via a friend of mine maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago, something like that, and was, again, love at first sight, really. It's just the access road into it via this old Gothic red brick bridge. It's very skinny on tall legs and stuff like that, just crossing it in the height of autumn or winter, I think it was, wispy fogs and stuff like that. It was beautiful. It was like being in like some sort of Hammer horror film, and then this castle looms into view, perched on this great big slab of rock. And as a castle freak, I was just, whoa, I found my home. And of course, like, I think everyone loves a good mystery, and this is one of the sources of the great mysteries of Poland, and the ghost of Barbara Zdunk, who was repeatedly the last European to be burnt for witchcraft.
In
In the
90?
don't push me on the air. I would have
Just a
advised
date.
for this if I'd known that. I think I guess if this was mastermind, I'd say 1813. But don't give me a boat if I'm right. Don't give me anything if I'm wrong. But I think 1813, 1810, some sort of that sort of area.
I'm willing to bet that most people watching this, even Polish people, won't know Reshel. Is that the kind of place where you can go for a day, or is it a 2-day? It sounds like a 1-day.
I mean, you can from Warsaw. It must be 3 hours car drive. I'm not sure about the car drive because I always get people to drive me. I can't drive. These hands are made for other things rather than holding a wheel. But it would be. I'm sure it would be possible as a day trip. But why would you want to do it as a day trip? I've no idea. You are mad if you think you're mad if you just go there for a day. I think the whole point of that whole region is to really immerse yourself, because I think there's so many other fascinating bits and pieces around there. You have obviously, I think probably most famous is the Wolf's Lair, which I think is about 30 minutes by car from there, which of course is an absolute jolt of a visit. I think for those that have visited, for those that haven't visited, I think it's an absolute wow. You can really feel the impact of history there.
Absolutely, man. I've been there, and it's just
It does send shivers. I think that one of my abiding memories is I visited there several times, but only once in the height of summer. And my abiding memory of that is kind of literally one of those Polish heat waves where it's 35 degrees and you're ripping your clothes off almost, and entering one of the bunkers, and it's like literally it's just cast permanently in this chill that I think is more than physical. I think it's genuinely something something almost psychologically chilling about it, and I think that's when it really hits home, just how the whole the whole structure of evil, let's say.
And it's one of the fascinating things because, for example, the Hitler bunker in Berlin was destroyed completely, for better or worse. And you could argue that maybe it was okay, but it was destroyed by the Russians at the end of the Second World War, just after. Whereas this bunker, you can walk around and more or less, there's a bit of probably a bit more undergrowth than there was, and you're more or less walking, step by step, exactly where Hitler made some of the most important and the most horrible decisions around the Second World War. Because he spent a significant amount of time there. Alex, I'm gonna hit you with a really hard question now, my friend.
Shoot.
Number one place to visit in Poland?
Right. I figured that you'd be asking me this. Honestly, it's such a tough one. I would honestly, I've been traveling extensively for 20 years. If you came back to me in another 20 years, I'd still be like shrugging my shoulders. I'm also very much aware that one man's meat is another man's poison. What I suggest is, has no reflection on whether the place is actually good. But with that disclaimer aside, I know that one place that really fills me with excitement whenever I visit, and that is Volbjik, which I think to me is very off the radar. I think to me it's synonymous with for other people with economic decline, depression, etc. But to me, the place is absolutely magic in its atmosphere. It's almost like entering your own film noir or something like that. It reminds me of the interwar detective novels that you get. Just the whole sort of the steep cobbled streets, the shadowy courtyards, the old door fronts with German lettering overhead. It's very, very bizarre, very I think very powerful. It's so atmospheric, it's beautiful, beguiling, etc. I can roll the cliches off if you wish. But it's
you kind of surprised me though. That was surprising because it's not a top ranked city in terms
of not at all. And I think it's if I might be wrong in this, but certainly a few years ago it had a declining population. I think that might still be the case. Certainly you can still feel it's not an affluent city. That much is obvious. But that said, it is that there is a good program of restoration going on, courtesy, I'm assuming, of EU stroke government initiative. The wider area, however, it's the whole setting of Volbjik as well that contributes to its magic. So it's nestled in the Owl Mountains, which themselves are just full of mystery, broken castles, beautiful boutique hotels, etc. And I think that it's to me it's more than just the city. The place itself, the whole region contributes to this real magic.
I'm sorry if I'm looking over to my right. My not yet 2-year-old daughter is perched on a balcony trying to get my attention, which does happen in our lives, guys. I completely agree. Actually, someone asked me the other day what my favorite region was in Poland. And although I'm a keen Warszawian or Słoik, as they say, a jar in slang Polish, I have to say it came down to Wałbrzych and that whole area, just the trees and the pines and
It's beautiful. I think this whole setting, the complexity of its history as well, the darkness of its history, because obviously it has huge links with World War II and such like. And you can feel it almost in the air. This strange, powerful mystery, this sense of intrigue, and to me, I think I love the forests and the raw, untrammeled nature of Poland. But for me, the Owl Mountains to me are a step beyond what I'm used to, frankly. And I think that these. Absolutely, I have no other words than magic. You know,
it is magic. It's definitely magical. Completely agree with that. Got Matthew here. Great interview. As an Englishman who visits my wife's family in Silesia, I'm always looking for interesting and unique places to even catch my family out that they didn't know were there. So, Matthew, you've got 3 articles that you can click on here. Anna, I just checked on the map. This is a really small village, talking about Reshel here. I can see this is a beautiful castle over there. Yeah, this is it. This is what you get when you get the Weber's World, which is on thefirstnews.com, guys. You can check on all the articles down here. So, place you, I'm going to couch this the right way. Place you least like visiting, and you can also say what time of year that is, because I'm going to make an educated guess that it might be a certain southern city in the middle of summer. But
you would be completely right. You're not putting words in my mouth at all. And to me, Krakow is the reason I fell in love with Poland in the first place, and then to see it change to such a degree. And being an Englishman as well, I feel very guilty of even saying this, but sit swamped with us Brits in doing it the wrong way. Let's say I've come across as quite pompous, I think, saying that, but I think it's uncomfortable being in an old town where the only local you're going to meet is someone acting as a waiter or a restaurant server or something like that. I think there's something fundamentally wrong in that, and I think there's something that needs to be corrected. I'm very, very intrigued, though, however, to be visiting Krakow in the next few weeks to see it post lockdown, to see how it's a friend of mine, for example, posted very recently, I think a couple of hours ago, of her having a beer on the Rinnek and just absolutely empty. And
really?
Whilst another friend of mine was there a couple of weekends ago, said the old town is kicking, but it's all locals. They have reclaimed the old town, which I find like very warmongering language that I love, you know. But I'm very intrigued to see what it's like in this current guise, and how long that lasts. Well, no idea. I mean, obviously, I don't wish. Obviously, I want the tourist industry to recover and stuff like that. A lot of people have been impacted by this, but for the short time, you know, I really want to see, out of curiosity more than anything, what it's like as a city without the hordes and swamps of tourists peeing on statues and singing football songs in the night and such like.
Yes, and let he who is without sin cast the first stone. So neither
yes,
you nor I.
I do apologise. I've come across as quite arrogant, I think, by saying that. That is not the intentions.
No, that's fine.
I will get my.
I'm sure Matthew, even though you've got a wife and a family in Silesia, I'm sure there's been more than one occasion you've flown the flag for the UK. Maybe you can explain this to anyone. Let's say we've got an American poll, maybe not quite so up to date. What exact scenes are we alluding to in Krakow? We had men disrobing themselves and jumping around in fountains. How long was this going on for?
It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, that said, this is exactly what was happening, essentially. That said, one of my friends who owned an Irish pub, now defunct, unfortunately, he came up with a very crafty idea of putting a no stag groups allowed sign on his door, and that had the reverse effect of getting loads and loads of people. And he still welcomed in the stag groups. This was all lip service that he was doing. It was a very crafty ploy that actually saw his taking saw. But yeah, it's essentially to me, Krakow has become almost a pastiche of itself. It's uncomfortable to see. That said, I have fallen in love with the city again a few years ago by firstly, I was doing an article on the Podgorze district and was staying across the river in Podgorze, a lovely hotel there, and discovered a side to Krakow that that I forgot that I didn't even know existed. This more local angled Krakow that was beautiful. You know, it had the great little cafes, the cool little bars and stuff like that. But and of course there were still tourists. There's, you know, the Schindler Museum is in Podgorze, etc. But that said, it felt like it felt diluted to a level where it was comfortable, it was palatable, and it felt local. You know, at the same time, whereas the old town I think should have a perimeter around it. You know, and
I kind of did, I suppose, at one stage. But,
yes, yeah, I thought of that the moment I said that. Oh, you moron.
don't worry, I'm always there to no, I mean, it's fascinating. I think unfortunately Krakow has become a victim of its own success in the same way that Prague has in the Czech Republic.
Exactly.
And what's interesting is that each city has its own quite specific situation. I think Wrocław, for example, for me is just the right perfect balance of locals and tourists.
Perfect balance. I think there's enough international interest to keep it really dynamic in terms of its improving restaurant offer, in terms of its improving hotel offer, etc. At the same time, it has this sort of the locals love a party. They're very friendly. I think the people of Wrocław very positively minded, and I think it has this perfect confluence of interests. It's a beautiful city as well to boot, you know, and this all conspires to, I think, possibly make it my favorite major city, let's say, of the path more trodden.
Well, exactly. I was going to ask you the next question, which is if you had to rank the top 5 Polish cities in certain order, which ones you'd want to, let's say I'm coming from the UK or the US and I want to do a tour of Poland and visit Polish cities. Which ones should I visit and in what order? Which is a really tough call. I would not want to answer this question myself.
I think every time I would say Wrocław. I would say that I'd definitely say Wrocław. I think for the reasons we've just covered, you know, I think to me it does strike that perfect balance of it's easy to understand as a city. It's a great stepping stone for Poland. I think it's a great signature card for Poland, in fact, in terms of what to do, what to see, in terms of the friendliness of the natives, the beauty of the city, the facilities for foreigners, the ease of access everywhere. I think in terms of actual eccentricity as well, which I think is one of the major pulls of Poland, is that it's mad as a box of frogs, this country. And I think Wrocław is, you know, that this is to me it is the quintessence of Poland. And obviously that I'm sure there'll be some people piping up saying, oh, about its rather potted history, let's say, of being tug of war between various nations and stuff like that, but it is Polish now. It is Poland, you know. So yeah, I think it is the very quintessence of Poland and its history in terms of its people and such like.
So, starting with Wrocław, work your way back.
Okay, working my way back, I would. I'm a huge supporter of Warsaw. Obviously, this is my home for 2 decades. I'm a huge supporter of Warsaw. That said, I think it's a hard city to understand unless you live here. I feel very guilty about suggesting it to visitors because there's so many elements can go wrong. You know, I think that I know people who've visited just the ones who've fallen in love with it, said, "Oh my God, you're so lucky to live there." Others who kind of literally just wanted to hate it from the first second and ended up hating it. But so yeah, I'm going to rank Warsaw maybe as a wild card somewhere. I think number 2 would be I think possibly Lublin, which I think to me is obviously a bit harder to get to, let's say maybe from Wrocław or by than Wrocław, but it's a fascinating city. And to me, this what I really love about it is that it has an old town that people live in, you know. And I think this goes back to the thing we're saying about Krakow being being in the center, and the only pole you'll see is the one serving you your beer or your meal. Whereas in Lublin, you get the idea that people live in the old town, people work in the old town. It's a fascinating city. I think it's a little uncharted still. Beautiful, again, very rich in its history, very rich in its World War II history, very rich in its preceding history. And I think a real city on the up. Again, this is when I cast my mind to when I first came to Poland 20 years back. I remember one of those backpacker Bibles that I was reading, and it warned on all costs, you know, leave the old town of Lublin after dark, you know, and diabolical warnings, you know, kind of striking fear into your heart. And I then discovered, actually, no, it's, you know, it looks shabby, yes, it did at the time anyhow, but no, the dangerous, no, definitely not. And as a city, it's continued to improve itself. I think the old town is beautiful outside the old town in Lublin. You're getting such an exciting, dynamic art scene and cultural scene. I think it's really exciting. It's one of those cities that I feel excited the night before I'm setting off to leave. I've got that little frisson of excitement where I'm thinking, oh yeah, the alarm clock might be going in 4 hours, but hey, it's Lublin. So Lublin is number 2. Number 3. Oh crikey, Patrick! I'd actually maybe go a little beyond, a little more south than Lublin, and go to Zamość, which I think is wonderful. The last time I was there would have been this time last year. Views at height of summer. I was literally the only person sitting on the Rinnek with a beer. It was like having a town to myself. I felt like the king of the world, which, being myself, I love being the king. So absolutely charming town. And again, with a very rich history and beautiful architecture. And sadly undervisited. I think every Pole knows about its beauty, but not every Pole has been there, which I find very surprising. I would make it compulsory if I was prime minister or president for people to visit Zamość. And I think number 4, I'm really struggling here because everything collides at once. But I would maybe say Łódź for the reasons that we've spoken about. And I think number 5, I think the Tri-City really is something spectacular. And I think joined as one, each element of the Tri-City really comes in and chips in to make it such a powerful spot. So no matter what you want, I think it's there in one of those 3 cities. So I think it's very...
You can literally hit 3 holes in one there. Well, we've got a cheeky comment here from Shimon. The best thing you can get in Lublin is a ticket to Puławy.
Puławy is a wonderful place. I'm a big fan of Puławy. I remember the last time I was there, I was staying in a brewery hotel, and honestly, you cannot beat checking into a hotel and then discovering, oh my god, they've got a brewery. It's right. The rest of the trip is cancelled. But I loved Puławy when I was there. It's actually seen or very close to one of my favorite museums ever, which is in a little village called, forgive me my pronunciation, Gołąb, I think. And and there is the Museum of Drunkenness and Cycling, which is it's one of those things I love about Poland. You're passing in a car and see a signpost to a Museum of Drunkenness and Cycling. Right, pull in here. In a wonderful place. It's a shed run by this very funny ex-professor who's extremely batty, really, it's such a character in a positive sense of the word. And essentially, he'll open up his shed where you can find his 30 years of drinking apparatus and detritus, and then open up a barn and find out all sorts of bicycle contraptions that he'll, in huge states of decomposition and stuff like that. He'll bring them out, haul them out, let you drive around, cycle around. It's hilarious, and to me, it's again, I think that's one of my favorite things about Poland. Is just like you're driving through on the way to Kazimierz Dolny or whatever with your girlfriends. Hang on, is that a sign for drunkenness and cycling? Great, this to me is one of the magic of Poland.
Anya, I'd like to take my English boyfriend to Kraków and hope he'll enjoy it. Well, we talked a little bit about Kraków and why you might want to possibly give it a miss there.
I would totally deny that, Patrick. I think that's you misunderstand me there. Personally, I think that Kraków is wonderful. I would never criticize it in such staunch terms as giving it a miss. I think it is a beautiful city, a brilliant scene, so much to do, so much to see. Personally, I think I've kind of had my eyes clouded a little by simply the long-term nature of my stint in Poland. It feels, seeing the changes Krakow's undergone, there really haven't been to my liking, let's say. But that said, I would really encourage anyone who hasn't been to Poland, go to Kraków.
I almost also couch my words, Alex. What I meant was, if you give it a miss in the summer and go in early autumn or even mid-autumn, when the leaves are falling and there's the wetness on the streets, the cobbled streets, they have their own smell, and you can imagine wraiths and ghosts coming out of twisty corners. I'm talking like a Alex Webber impersonator here, because it's how he writes.
I'm squinting at you there, Patrick.
You feel like you're living in the pages of some sort of Second World War spy novel, and there's something about those cobbled streets. You don't quite get it anywhere else, or maybe I just not traveling enough.
Alex,
how do you get around? Can you get around Poland with little to no Polish? What was your advice for anyone coming over?
My Polish is, I'm very embarrassed to say, my Polish is rubbish. I've been here for 20 years. My Polish is quite dismal. I can get by, but not confident. I do rely on the liquid bullets, let's say, to make me confident with my language. The thing I find, I think that this goes for anywhere in the world. As long as you have a positive outlook, as long as you are a positive person, you could get by anywhere without speaking a dot of the language. Is how you express yourself, let's say. I think that no one is going to send you the wrong way if you've got a smile on your face. No one is going to hit you if you're, happy, etc., etc. It's common sense. I think you can get by anywhere in the world as long as you have the right the right glint in your eye, let's say.
Well, that glint in your eye sounds like it's been getting you all across Poland, Alex, and in various different forms. So you need to, guys, keep an eye on Weber's World. It's Alex's column for the column for the first news. I'll fit in quickly, Justina, your little piece of advice here. Wadek Zdroy. I think it's Wadek Zdroy.
I have not been there. I'm going there in 2 weeks' time, actually.
Oh.
Yes.
So, Justina, keep an eye out for the Weber. He'll be on the Woos, as it were, not on the Łódź or on the booze. So, Alex, thank you very much for sharing with us.
Patrick, it's been an honor.
Come back and talk some more.
I would love to. Thank you very much for having me.
Love it, guys. Right in the comments section right now. If you've got a question for Alex, I'm sure he'll come back to those questions. Give him some loves, give him some hearts, give him some huggy symbols if you're on Facebook. Bye, Alex. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Take care.
We got people writing already saying what a fantastic guest. So, guys, Alex Weber is a member of the First News team, and the firstnews.com is the premier English language site for news about Poland. You can find stuff there about the top 10 places to visit, best places to come to, Polish language phrases, places that even Polish people don't know about. That's exactly what Alex's column is about. But there's more. There's more about Polish culture, more about Polish history, Polish sport, and news. So it is the place to go to. You can check out the 3 articles that Alex has written for the First News, and I've got some information. Another one is coming. I forgot to ask him about this. You've heard about Wojtek the bear. Well, how about the Polish polar bear that helped in the First World War? That is the article that Alex is writing right now and working on. He's going to go meet that Polish bear to find out more. So he's quite a character, quite an interesting life story. Thanks very much for joining me on this special Monday-based episode of the First News' Heart of Poland, where we talk to fascinating people living fascinating lives in the fascinating country of Poland. I've loved spending some time with Alex, and I hope you have as well. So do share this episode on and check out all the other episodes of this fantastic program. We are approaching 100 editions of Heart of Poland. So I think it's ready. I think I'm more than ready, I would say, for a little party to celebrate. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you again this Friday or soon for another episode of Heart of Poland.